All right, I haven't been able to come to the lot of going on in my personal life right now, so it's surprising how much of your day preparing for a little video takes. um, to the point that I'm kind of over here in my office with a huge library behind me, huge commentaries and theology and philosophy texts. Look at all that. But also, I don't want to wake my family up, and so I just decided to come over here and make this quick video, trying to stay consistent. And I want to talk about the Unbelievable podcast, well, the big conversation rather, between Dave Rubin and John Lennox. So I need to put my cards on the table about something. I find John Lennox to be one of the least engaging apologists for me. And I don't want to sound too critical of the guy. In fact, in terms of like apologist believers, he really seems to have, as far as I can tell, his public persona at least, is that he does seem to have a heart for the gospel. And his personal story is really interesting. And he tells that story in this Unbelievable. And it's worth it just for that. So hearing his personal story was really good. But this was the least like a debate of them all. Um, you could make the argument these aren't supposed to be debates, although Justin probably does try to position them very clearly on opposite sides. Um, and he will sort of try to cause debate when there isn't one. And he did do that in this. But unfortunately, it just wasn't that. Dave Rubin was very much in love with Jordan Peterson. And all I can say is that there's just no foundation there for belief. Saying you're not an atheist because Jordan Peterson's psychology is really impressive to you um, doesn't move the needle in my mind in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of the people there, Dave Rubin was very charming, and a lot of people there love the guy. I love the guy; he was great, but he um, he just didn't. I don't know how to put it. He just didn't seem to be able to. He wanted everyone to hear, hey, I do think there's something out there, and it was all because of Jordan Peterson. And John Lennox didn't want to rain on the parade too much, which is understandable in that format. But I think that someone like James White, and I don't mean to sit here and just, say, hey, there's this better apologist that needs to be there. I don't mean it that way. I couldn't help but think of how James White might have pressed him a little bit. And you have to think some of this has to do, I still think this has to do with the way the British operate versus how Americans operate. Because I think an American would have pressed him. And as an American, I feel like that would have been more effective. But would have been more effective? I'm not sure. But I do feel like everyone there was pretty happy to hear that he was not an atheist. And he was very clear that he did not believe in Jesus. But he did try to make it look like he was on a journey. But was he really on a journey? I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. He made it very clear that those who were more secular in their thinking were not happy with him for not being an atheist because he had declared atheism at one point. But he tried to make the case that that wasn't really something he was ever committed to, And it was Peterson that had changed his mind into thinking that there was really more out there to consider. I mean, that's good, but for those of us who believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, that really doesn't move the needle at all. And I do understand people have spiritual journeys, and I do understand that God can use even unbelievers to bring someone to faith. Okay? Let's not discount any of that. But this man was making it very clear that he was not coming in the name of Christ, that he had not, that he didn't believe in the message Jesus had brought. And I do think Lennox did contrast, to at least to some degree, the Christian theology, but I don't believe he confronted Rubin with the gospel. In my opinion, I only watched it once, and I apologize for that. It just was pretty boring. It doesn't need to be combative for me to enjoy it. It just was boring. It's just, yeah, this guy thinks Jordan Peterson's really cool, and the other guy says, "Well, I'm glad you think that," and everybody clapped for him. It's like, this is so weird. Like, I, I'm not saying we have to enter into combat with everybody. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I did. I mean, I like to hear that someone's open minded, but on the one hand, on the other hand, that they're not going to be saved by that. They're not going to be saved nor justified by that. They're justified. I'm right in the middle of prepping for Romans here, so they're justified by the resurrection, right? I mean, they're saved by the death of Christ on the cross, and their faith in that, not by being impressed by Jordan Peterson. I do not recommend watching this one unless you just really like John Lennox or really like Dave Rubin. I don't know anything about Dave Rubin. He apparently has some show. I don't know. Picking a winner, that's impossible because I can't do it. There's just no way to pick a winner. So that's all I can really say is I don't recommend watching this episode. Sorry, I hope this wasn't too rambly. I've never enjoyed watching this particular Unbelievable podcast, and my recommendation is just stay away from it. It wasn't all that interesting. It wasn't fruitful. The gospel really wasn't fully presented, and that's of great importance to me and to I think many of you as well.